Hello, my name is Vaishnavi, and today I'm going to talk about my take on Socrates as per Plato's Apology, as well as the Socratic method and his way of defining wisdom. We were given Plato's Apology as a text in our class, and I found it very interesting because it talks about Socrates and the way he perceived wisdom. The context was that Socrates was accused of many things, such as corrupting the youth and having these ridiculous, in quotes, ideas about wisdom and challenging the wise people. So, Plato's Apology details Socrates' speech before the court of Athens. How there are quite a few quotes in Plato's Apology that really appeal to me and have instigated quite a bit of thought. In fact, I thought quite a bit about Plato's Apology and Socrates. Socrates, as far based on my bit of background knowledge, was an ancient Greek philosopher, and he had this method called the Socratic method. And as per the Socratic method, Socrates used to frustrate his opponents into submission. So they'd get angry or irritated, just frustrated, and they'd just get up or leave. And that's how Socrates knew he won the argument. I found the best quotes to be in the first few pages of Plato's Apologies, and in this video I'm going to talk about four of them. The first one is from page 4, which says, "It seemed to me that this man seemed to be wise both to many other human beings and most of all to himself." The context here is that, according to Socrates, the oracle of Delphi declared Socrates as the wisest of them all. But Socrates was a bit intrigued by this. He wasn't just content with, the oracle naming him the wisest. He wanted to know why. So he goes to this politician who had a reputation of being wise, and he tries to show him that he was supposed to be wiser, in Socrates' own words. Unfortunately, he fails to do so and comes to the conclusion that, yes, this person I'm dealing with is not really that wise, and I, for sure, am wiser. So when he comes to that conclusion, this sort of gives an anecdote of what he was thinking at the time. So Socrates clearly thought the man as, wise to other people. He has a reputation of being wise. And obviously, for himself, he had a bit of arrogance, clearly, that he was wise. He thought of himself as wise, probably because everybody else considered him wise. And Socrates could clearly see that conceit. And I think it's really important because a lot of people who are considered smart end up showing conceit, really consider themselves above all human beings, and usually we end up letting that slide. So this was a real eye-opener for me. It was just a single line, but it made me connect the dots a bit. Another one is from page 5 that said, "The good craftsman also seemed to me to go wrong in the same way as the poets, because he performed his art nobly, each deemed himself wisest also on the other things." Now, clearly he went to the craftsmen afterwards and poets. They were talented, to be sure, in what they were doing, but they thought of themselves as talented in everything else. And I think that's also how we see talented people sometimes. Just because someone is good at one thing doesn't mean they are the best, especially that one thing that they're good at is something that we put a little check mark to next to the box. Often we give higher value to certain talents or certain types of people, certain types of personalities. And the minute those people check that thing that we value, we often just overestimate them sometimes. We really consider them the best at everything. And sometimes even the people with those kind of personalities or those kind of traits end up doing that themselves. So this is something that Socrates notes as well, and he definitely does not see this as a way to be wise or a demarcation of wisdom, because they know one thing and they're great at that, but they just have this presumption that they're the best at everything. Page 6 was also really good because it has two quotes here that I liked. Firstly, it's, "So in order not to seem to be at a loss, they say the things that they're ready at hand against all who philosophize." So clearly the people that he's debating with, they came to a point where they're just ready with all their defenses. And unfortunately, all these defenses are just babbling. They're just trying to throw darts. They're probably saying the same thing over and over again. They're probably not even using logic. And this is what Socrates points out. And I think this is pretty common with people I've often discussed like social issues or politics with. They often repeat the same thing over and over again. They don't always back themselves up with logic or with a good argument. They use stuff like, "but still, oh, but this, oh, this," and they keep saying the same thing over and over again, the same point. And this is something Socrates has noticed in his opponents as well. They're just ready to, the minute they start saying something that is clearly not in the conventional box of smartness, they just start ready with their defenses and they're just ready with their attacks. Another thing is, it becomes quite clear that they pretend to know but know nothing. So obviously with their just babbling and they're just going on, it's obvious that they don't have a calm, clear logic and explanation. They're just doing it because they find it the smart thing to do, because it's validated by society, and because it gets them the respect and admiration. But clearly these kind of people do not have the admiration of Socrates. And here I agree with Socrates, because a lot of people try to portray themselves as smart, as knowledgeable, the supreme authority. But the truth is that, unfortunately, a lot of people don't always think why they do this or why they do that. They don't see a reason to build a question. They just do it, and they will go on and on, giving baseless arguments even for things that could easily be refuted with logic and actual reasoning. And another thing is, what struck me was the use of the word wise in this. It's obvious that Socrates is sort of throwing shade at the word wise, especially when talking about the people he meets. They're supposed to be wise. I found that word repeated a lot, which led me to question, what does he truly mean by wise? And I think here that Socrates establishes a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing things. You're good at something, you know something really well. That's knowledge. That's great. But here, wisdom, according to Socrates, it comes hand in hand with finesse. The finesse of the mind, where you have a clear, concrete logic, a step-by-step explanation to why you do things, and you have a proper validation for it. And I agree with that. And to add on that, I'd also like to say that I think that wisdom is about picking up the details in your life. You don't even have to be knowledgeable to be wise. but just picking up the details around you and just forming your own philosophies, forming your own ideas, and just putting yourself forward, carving yourself out of the mold of society and becoming a better thinking person. I think that is what wisdom really means. Not just knowing things that are just written in textbook, or knowing things that's just written on the board or just given to you, but true application of the mind to questions all around us. A simple thing as the very point of our existence itself, I believe it is answered with wisdom.